I've lived within the city about a year, but I've lived locally most of my life, other than moving around due to my father's military service.
So let's start off with the first question. So what are a few things, 2 or 3, whatever, however many you want to state, of the top issues that Watertown is currently facing, and how would you like to work with the council to tackle some of those issues?
Of course. I would say that from what I'm seeing and hearing right now, the biggest issue that our community faces, like many others, is homelessness. Homelessness, which kind of feeds into the affordability issue. I'll talk to many residents, I'll talk to some of my friends, and a lot of my friends and fellow residents, their rent is more than my mortgage. We have an issue with rent prices here in the city. Some of that's due to Fort Drum, but some of that's also due to, few options. We also have a lot of blight in the community. We need some investment. With this investment, we could, increase the housing stock, we could drive down rent prices. We also have a problem with, government spending in the city. And, I'm hesitant to call it waste because it's not necessarily waste. My biggest concern from what I've seen, following city politics for quite a while, and politics in general, frankly, would be, the city and the councils, the previous councils, have not really engaged in what I would call effective long-term planning. They'll talk about the budget next year or the year after, but there's not a lot of, hey, what's coming, 5 years, 10 years down the line, until it's too late. Within the next 5 years, I'll give you an example. The city's budget deficit grows from $3 million this year to 13, 14, 15 million in fiscal 29, I believe. That's the projection. And then we have the loss of the hydroelectric revenue, which, if we don't do anything regarding that, we're losing another 5 million a year in revenue. I believe in taking that action.
Thank you. Now, how would you bring in, more business, more jobs, creating these solutions that you're talking about to the Watertown area, just improving the city's economy in general?
Of course. I think we need to take a collaborative approach. We need to work with our partners at Fort Drum. We have a lot of military families who are not from the area, who Watertown gets kind of a bad rep sometimes. And really, it's trying to show that Watertown is a good place to do business. It's a good place to raise a family. We need to address some of the crime issues and the homelessness and the blight that I previously mentioned, because there's kind of this perception that Watertown's not a safe community. We're a small city of 23,000. We don't have violent crime or, like other cities in New York State. But we do have a lot of theft. We have a lot of petty crimes. We do have homeless encampments, relatively visible, right downtown, actually. And it's just kind of leading to what I would call a crisis. Does someone not from the area driving down our main streets, State Street or Factory Street or Mill Street or Arsenal Street, what do they see? What's their takeaway from the city of Watertown? And it just looks like we're a community in need of significant investment. We need, reinvention, and we need sound fiscal decisions to take place.
Why are you a strong candidate to represent all the people here in Watertown? You said you've basically grown up here.
Yeah.
You're local. You teach the kids. So tell us why you're a trustworthy candidate.
Well, a lot of what you actually just alluded to is, why I think I'm the right choice to represent residents. My story is essentially a North Country story. A lot of folks in the North Country are affiliated with Fort Drum in one way or another. My family, we're proud to be from the area. When my father retired, for instance, we could have moved anywhere, but we chose to stay in the North Country. North Country is our home. The city of Watertown, I'm a proud Watertown High School graduate. And, I went away for college, and then I don't like to admit this, but I believe in being honest and transparent. Sometimes when I came home from college, I kind of regretted staying here. Because for young people, 18 to 40, there's not often a lot of job opportunities, unless you're in a very specialized sector. So unless you're affiliated with Fort Drum or the federal government, or you're working in healthcare or you're working in education. outside of that, there's not a lot of industry left over. You know, the paper mill's closed, a lot of the factories closed. We're kind of struggling to find our identity. So I want to give young folks a reason to stay in the area. You know, your leadership should look like the community, and you know, as a whole. Going off of the affordability issue, you know, our senior citizens on fixed incomes, they will struggle immensely if these, you know, significant property tax increases come to fruition.
You know, you kind of have already addressed this, but I'm going to ask, kind of just for you to reiterate, what is your long-term vision for the city? And you know, I can hear what you're hoping to get done, and I see your goals as clear as day. So if you could just conceptualize in 1 or 2 or 3, however short you would like to see, you know, what is your vision?
You know, the population since I was a kid has fallen from just under 30,000 to I believe we're under 23,000 today. That's not a sustainable trajectory, you know, especially with more city employees than we've had seemingly ever. So really what I want to see done is I want to stabilize city finances. I want to show the residents that even though, you know, our budgets are going to be tight, that I want them to see their tax dollars at work, you know, applied equitably. You know, I want to focus on infrastructure. It's one thing if property taxes are increasing or, you know, our water and sewer rates are increasing. But it's another thing if you're driving down streets and you're seeing your streets being worked on and, you know, your trash is being picked up. You're seeing, you know, water infrastructure improve and you're seeing an increasing quality of life. You know, you're tackling the crime issues. You're making sure that the police are being respected and, you know, they have the necessary tools and, you know, just the support of the community behind them.